on was our game with, I said Loyola, with our game with South Dakota State reminds me a little bit of Loyola. They're a team, you always, hey, who's the surprise team that can make a run? Their program is that kind of program that they're going to keep knocking on the door and they're going to make some sort of run. They're that kind of team and that kind of program. So well coached, great players. They dig out these guys. And hey, I was in the North Central Conference for 3 or 4 years, and I know how good those teams are. In those South Dakota State, North Dakota State. I mean, McDermott and all those guys were the assistants at North Dakota when I was in that league. So great basketball coaches and great players on these teams, and so we got a big challenge, in game one.
How much of an advantage for them having played somebody good and then you weigh it with having to then travel and come there?
But playing, every team around the country, like I said, I watched 25 games last year, and sometimes everyone gets they're good, they're not good. Teams are going to change so dramatically in the next 2 months that you get an idea of personnel a little bit, but you're going to see so much improvement of teams, so the games are what improves you at this point of the season, and they've got a great one under their belt. They're going to be ahead of us in a lot of those things, so we're going to have to play a really good game, and I'm excited that there's a lot of people coming. I mean, if you got a chance to come and you're a student, you can get a replica ring. Those things are cool. I mean, if I was a student, I'd love to get one of those. So we need 10,000 here, because you're gonna see a high level basketball game. Hopefully we can play with the intelligence that it's going to require to compete with a team like this.
So where's your team different? How have you spent the entire offseason, and where have you built this team? How is it different? Let's take a quick broad overlook at this team as you go into the season on Wednesday.
I think there's different strengths than what we had last year's team was just gritty and tough, and it took us a while to sort out who we were. We were Canadian football. We would punt on third down because we didn't want you to score in transition, because our defense was so good and grimy, and and our offense wasn't as explosive as a lot of the offenses we've had here. So the toughest team is going to win the league, and we have to develop that as our identity, because that's a staple of our program. That doesn't change year to year. We have to be tough. It might look different, and it doesn't mean you're beating someone 42-37. That takes some grit and grime and mental. You got to be comfortable with that. So this team will be a little bit different, I think, as far as scoring. But we have to bring that same toughness and resolve, and gritty, grimy, and every possession. I look back on film from last year, it's remarkable. You can pull up a possession that was 4 minutes before halftime of a game, and it looks like we're guarding for the league championship on that possession. It's that's what this team, and I'm not saying we don't have some of that already, but it takes time to really figure out how to get that for every single possession, and that multiple efforts that we would do, flying around. We made mistakes, but we covered up our mistakes with how hard we played, because that's what some of these young guys, it takes them a while. They'll make one really hard effort. I stopped him, but then it requires 2 or 3 more efforts at this level. So you can just see the process working in their brain, where like, oh yeah, I got to keep playing, and so we gotta that response has to be quicker, and that's what playing does. You get used to that and get comfortable with that, and they get to see it. So
when you went back and watched the Carroll College game, any takeaways, or do you just kind of throw that one?
Oh, no, there was great takeaways for us. Yeah, we learned a lot, and again, it goes back to what I'm saying, is that you can't simulate a lot of the things that we learned because of game conditions, and I think we had some nerves, and I think this is the first time playing under lights. It's natural. I've seen that over and over years, but I was and the thing I think I'm most pleased about with this team is we've shown that where I say, okay, we got 3 days to work on this and get better at it. Let's go. These guys do it, and so that's a great sign for this team. because they're not there yet, and they know that, like I talked about, I played Sada 7 minutes and 51 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have bigger plans for him than that, but you couldn't get to his talent if you can't teach him all these things, and if he wasn't willing to learn it. He's doing a great job of that. Great job. And he's not alone. I got all those young guys that we have to develop that are doing, you saw Jace, he's getting better and better. And, these guys, you can't put a timetable, and as a coach, you want to know when they're going to get there, but you don't know when they're going to when the stuff's all going to click. But I'm seeing a lot of things starting to click with some of these guys that have it. But you got to get them out on the court so it can click out there.
For the guys last year that got to experience winning the tournament, going to March Madness, kind of getting that feeling, how much does that fuel you as a player or coach, whatever, that you taste it and you want to get back there and do it again?
Well, they all want it. Yeah, absolutely. They all want it because they know. I mean, it was Shave's best year of basketball, and he had he won a state championship, and I think he enjoyed that year and more than any other year he's ever played. And I think that, to a man, is what they were all saying in the preseason. We talked about those kind of things, but it's time to bury that, and it's time to move that. Now let's go create this team's own legacy and what they bring to this program, and that I'm excited to watch that.
What's your biggest curiosity about this team going into tomorrow night? It's like, what's the one thing that maybe you haven't figured out yet that you want to know what the answer is about this
I
team?
think it's players maybe 5, 6 through 12, because I know they can get to where they want to go. The curiosity of how they can perform and help us win games, and that's the curiosity of how quickly we can develop them, all those kind of things, because that's probably, because I think we know what we're going to get out of Shave and Max and, the guys like that, Tyson, the guys that have been here for a bit. And, you're going to be off 5% to 10% maybe. These other guys, there's a 40% swing. Number one, we can get them better, but number two, you just don't know because what situations they're going to be best in, what combinations you can use with them. But we have to develop them to win games in January, February.
Will Pavle be available tomorrow?
It's game time decision, and that's the other thing. We need Pavle. He's been playing great, but he had just rolled his ankle.
What are the challenges in managing your rotation for tomorrow? I mean,
Yeah, that's a hard one
you
too.
can't play everybody anymore.
Yeah, and you can't. Like I said, I'm reaching in. You reach in your wallet when you got a bill due. You want to know that you're pulling out a 10 every time. Okay, here's my 10. I feel like right now I'm reaching in there, and it might be a 1, it might be a 20, it might be, I just want to know that it's the same every time, and we're not there yet. So.
You obviously get to choose your schedule, or at least part of it. What
Well,
made
you
want-
do, but there's, there's a reason why Akron had to play South Dakota State the first game. Nobody wants to play those two, right?
Right.
There's a reason why we're playing South Dakota State
Right.
On Wednesday. Nobody wants to come here, and nobody wants to play South Dakota State. The guys aren't dumb. They don't want to play South. I watched a lot of these games last night. Like I said, well, they were playing people that weren't South Dakota State. And that makes a huge difference. Huge difference. I mean, you can say, "Oh, look at these guys. They're off to a great start," and they've played teams that they should beat by 40. So the reality of scheduling is, in theory, you'd like, okay, I like this one and I like that one. I'd like to put it here, and you don't get to do that because of restrictions of like, we're not coming there. We get that a lot, and but we also wanted quality opponents. I mean, there's a fine line. Yeah, you want some opportunities to develop these young guys, but you also are building a resume, and we started that resume week 1. Those are 2 high-level, feather in the cap games if you can get it done, and that's how we got Washington State to come down here. Kyle knows that the winner of last year's game, it was a feather in the cap, and so there it's a balance of that way. But now you got to go live it. Now you got to go find a way to beat a team that that just played in a high-level game under their belt. They learned a lot about themselves, and they learned things they can get better on. They will be better Wednesday.
Do
Did that
staffs-
answer your question though? I kinda
Yeah,
got
I think so.
tangent.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
that works.
You didn't hear the question. You
I
hear it.
didn't.
I was just
Sorry,
going to
go
ask,
ahead.
why you wanted to challenge them so much out of the gate, or what made you
Yeah.
confident in challenging them so early?
Yeah, well, you do have a nucleus, you have some experience. So it's both of those. It's that you do have some experience and you're coming off, a really good team, and you got guys that know how to win. So there's that. But there's also the reality of scheduling too. In a perfect world, I'd like to have this game about 8 games in, where you have a chance to develop guys. I mean, there'd be a stair step of competition, but no, we're right into the deep end.
How does staffs get better? And you guys have a lot of continuity here. I think you should return just about everybody. You add Birdo. Like, what is it? What elements can improve a staff?
It's part of our culture. Is we have it in our culture book of at the pinnacle of our success, we want to innovate, we want to find new ways, we want to get better, and not just do it just to do it, but keep looking at things and keep be willing to learn and be willing to it's not about me looking cool or our staff, oh, that was neat. It's about us helping them accomplish the mission and getting better. And so we're always trying to find ways to do that. And I've always had that growth mindset approach and our staff has. And so, and we got a nice mix of old heads, because I like to be able to turn and say, okay, what does the book say? There are fundamental things that you have to be good at and have to do, but then there's creative things, and I think that you see that in football a lot, where a lot of these young coordinators, oh, look at all this creative stuff. Well, you don't have any fundamental things that you do well. You can't just run the ball and grind the clock, and you still have to be able to do that. Football is still football, and basketball is still basketball, and it's a game of fundamentals. It's a game of habits. But out of that, you got to find ways to innovate, and the innovation has to come in a way that sometimes takes time, in the fact that you got to learn your team, so you're not, especially you have to learn what their strengths are, and learn. Like last year, we had to adjust to what we had, and that was a mindset shift for me. Like I had to be comfortable winning a game 42-37, and I wasn't that way in November. So part of the problem was having to learn the team and what our strengths were, and then getting comfortable and innovating and finding ways to win that way, because you're going to win in different ways. And so I'd say that's the mindset, because I've always been part of great offenses, and so it just but then you can't lose sight. Well, it's really accomplished the mission, not look great and looks pretty and that kind of thing. It's just help them accomplish the mission.
We talked to Lucas before you came in here. How much better is he going to be this year?
I got high hopes for him. He's certainly deserving of it. He's worked so hard, and he's a great athlete, and he can run, and he's got all the parts. And so he's been a late bloomer. So the number of reps he's got is not that many over the course of his lifetime. So, but he's got it in him. It's our job to help him get it out.
He said he's waited a long time for this opportunity to potentially start and play a major role.
Yeah.
Have you noticed that he's kind of he's wanting to seize this opportunity?
Absolutely. To this point, yeah, no doubt. But you know what? I don't want that to create anxiety for him, because sometimes he's got, and Buzo's a little bit the same way. Like he said, I think he said it in your press conference, along with a few other things. That he said, I've been waiting. I mean, think of the anxiety that can produce. I've been waiting all, So they just have to trust in what they've done, trust in their work, trust in their teammates, and trust in their ability, and enjoy it. And so we have to be able to help them through that kind of thing. And then when they do, some of it's experience, but if we can get them to that place faster, then they're going to be good, really good.
This question came up yesterday in Avalos's press conference. How would you describe your relationship with Andy?
Oh, first of all, I was so happy when we hired him, just because the right guy for the job. There is no other answer, other than that, for who we hired. I think he bleeds blue, and that's what this place is about. There's a tradition here. That's unique, and so us having an opportunity to hire somebody of that character, that he's that good with kids, he's that good of a coach, that good of a person, fits in our community. You can't. He's a home run, and and he knows the process. And he's problem with our jobs, we're completely judged on outcome. So, but I love him. I think I love talking to him, and I enjoy. That's what I've really enjoyed about this football program over the years. The relationships I've got to have with these great coaches. I've learned a lot from these guys. Starting right when I got here. Coach Pete said he wanted to pick my brain. I'm like, whoa, you've got 4 losses in about 55 games. You don't need to pick my brain. But it started back then, being able to share ideas, and then I got to know Hawkins, and you got Cutter and Bergano that moved here. You got just all these great coaches, and then Brian was here, and now Andy, and I value that a lot because I know what they go through, they know what I go through. But they care about my program, I care about theirs, and I mean, I live and die with every game. Where I'm yelling at the officials as much as I am when I'm here. So but he's just done an amazing job with the way he's flipped this team and had to deal through the valley of death like we talked about, but he's just going to keep building it, and it's going to get better and better and better.
The news, the soft news that came out yesterday about the potential of San Diego State leaving the Mountain West for the Pac-12. I mean, just what would a future conference look like without San Diego State? How important is San Diego State basketball to you in this program?
Well, I've enjoyed that rivalry, and it's not going to happen. If they do announce it, it's not going to happen for a few years. So I'll cross that bridge. I mean, it's funny because there's all my journey through all this conference changing. We were kind of ahead of the curve. We were talking about all this stuff right when it started, and the Big East, Big West, all that kind of craziness. And so I was really into the talk, and then we've done it so much that it's almost became white noise. And, there was all the rumors about Gonzaga's going to the Big 12. In the old days, I would have called Mark right away and like, what's going on? We talked the other day, we didn't even talk about it, So it's just, like I said, it's just white noise of my job's the same. Our job is to be the best, create this program that competes for a championship in the Mountain West. And then if something changes someday, then I'll adjust to that. But now it really is. It's just, it's all going on around me. That's so far down the road. That's a problem for future, Leon.
Who's a player that maybe this crowd hasn't seen yet, but they're going to ultimately fall in love with?
I think there could be a few candidates. I think people, jumped out and like Jace. I think there's a lot of guys on that, that you haven't seen and gotten to know. Plus, I think there's guys that are in different roles that you're going to be like, whoa, we knew he was good, but that guy's really good. So I'm not picking just one. There's going to be, because my job is to see these guys starting back when we recruit them of, okay, what can we get this guy to? So I have the finished product already painted in my brain. Now, how do I get them there, and how quickly I can get them there? And boy, that finished product is beautiful. I mean, these guys, there's some good ones with some ability. And if we can get them to play to their ability and, where they can understand the system, know how they play with their teammates, all those things that take a little time, then there's some guys that can be special.
Awesome.